There was a moment, just a few seconds long, when Patricia believed she had finally found love again. It didn't feel reckless. It didn't feel dangerous. It didn't even feel unusual. It felt right. And that is exactly why it destroyed her life. Because 6 months later, Patricia would sell her house, transfer every dollar she had, and realize something that most people only understand too late. The man she trusted, the man she planned to marry, the man she believed she knew better than anyone else, did not exist. Patricia Reynolds was 67 years old. She lived in a quiet neighborhood in Florida. A small house, white walls, blue shutters, a garden she cared for every morning. It wasn't a luxury home, but it was hers, paid off. And that mattered, because for Patricia, the house represented something much bigger than property. It represented stability, security, a life that had been built slowly, carefully. After 40 years of work, Patricia had spent most of her career as a school librarian. It was a quiet job, predictable, routine, but she liked it that way. Those students, simple conversations. She had never chased big money, never taken big risks. Instead, she chose consistency, saving a little every month, paying off debts early, avoiding unnecessary expenses. By the time she retired, her life was modest, but stable. Social Security, a small savings account, and her home, everything she needed. But there was one thing missing, something she didn't talk about often: loneliness. Her husband had passed away 8 years earlier. A sudden illness. Unexpected. One day everything felt normal. And the next, everything was quiet. Too quiet. At first, Patricia filled that silence with routine. Television in the background, phone calls with friends, occasional visits with her daughter. But loneliness doesn't disappear with distraction. It waits in the quiet moments. At night, during dinner, when there is no one sitting across the table. Over time, that feeling began to grow. Not dramatically, not all at once, just slowly, until one day, Patricia made a small decision, a decision that seemed harmless. She created a Facebook account. At first, it was just to stay connected. Photos of her grandchildren, updates from friends, local community groups. Nothing unusual, nothing risky. But social media does something powerful. It creates connection, or at least the feeling of connection. And for someone who feels alone, that feeling can be incredibly important. A few weeks after creating her account, Patricia received a message. The message was simple, polite, respectful. Hello, Patricia. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. You seem like a kind person. The sender's name was Michael Turner. His profile picture showed a man in his early 60s. Gray hair, soft smile, professional appearance. His profile looked normal. Photos at construction sites. Photos at airports. Photos in what looked like hotel rooms. According to his profile, he was a civil engineer working on international projects. Everything about it looked believable. But what mattered most was the way he spoke. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't overly charming. He was calm, respectful, and that made Patricia feel safe. So she replied. That small reply was the beginning of everything. Over the next few days, their conversations became regular. Morning messages. Good morning, Patricia. I hope you have a beautiful day. Afternoon check-ins. How is your day going? And evening conversations. Sometimes short, sometimes long. Michael asked about her life, her family, her interests. He remembered details, small details, things Patricia had mentioned only once. And that mattered, because attention creates connection, and connection creates trust. Within 2 weeks, talking to Michael became part of Patricia's routine. Something she looked forward to. Something that made the quiet days feel less empty, less lonely. Then one evening, Michael shared something personal. He told her his wife had died. Cancer. He described the hospital visits, the long nights, the moment everything ended. Patricia felt a deep emotional connection reading his words, because she understood loss. She understood grief. And in that moment, something changed. The conversation became more than just friendly. It became meaningful. And meaning is powerful, because when people feel understood, they lower their guard. 3 weeks later, Michael sent a message that made Patricia stop and stare at her phone. I feel like I can trust you. That sentence stayed with her. His trust is not something people offer lightly, especially not after loss. Patricia replied slowly. I feel the same way. And just like that, the foundation was set, not for a friendship, but for something much deeper. Something that felt like a second chance at love. At first, everything felt natural. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Just two people, talking, sharing small pieces of their lives. But something subtle was happening. Something Patricia didn't notice. Michael was slowly becoming part of her daily rhythm. And when someone becomes part of your routine, they also become part of your emotional world. Every morning, his message arrived before anything else. Good morning, Patricia. I was thinking about you. She would read it before making coffee, before turning on the television, before even stepping outside. And over time, that message became something more than just words. It became anticipation. Because loneliness doesn't disappear overnight, but connection, even a digital one, can make it feel smaller, easier, more manageable. Weeks passed, and the conversations became deeper, more personal. They talked about childhood, about regrets, about things they had never told anyone else. Michael knew exactly how to listen. He never interrupted, never dismissed her feelings. He always responded with care, understanding, patience, And that made Patricia feel something she hadn't felt in years. Seeing, he remembered everything. Her favorite book, her daughter's name, even the story she told about her husband's old watch. Details matter, because when someone remembers small things, it feels real, and real creates trust. About a month into their conversations, Patricia suggested something simple. Maybe we could talk on the phone sometime. It seemed like a natural step. Michael paused, then responded carefully. I would like that, but right now it's difficult. Difficult? That word is important because it doesn't say no. It delays. He explained that he was working overseas on a construction project. Remote location. Limited signal. Phone calls were unreliable. Video calls almost impossible. But messages always worked. At the time, that explanation made sense because people working internationally often face communication problems. So Patricia didn't question it. Not yet. And that is how trust grows. Not in big moments, but in small decisions. Moments where we choose not to question something. A few days later, Michael sent her a photo. He was standing at what looked like a construction site. Hard hat, safety vest, dust in the background. It looked real, very real. Patricia smiled, because now she could picture him, not just imagine him, and that made the connection stronger, more tangible, more believable. Then something else began to change. The tone of the conversations. They became more emotional, more intense. Michael started sending messages like, I feel like I've known you for years. I don't think this is a coincidence. Meeting you changed something in me. Those words, they don't sound extreme, but they create something powerful. Emotional acceleration. Because when feelings grow quickly, logic often slows down, and Patricia felt it. That quiet excitement, that warmth when his message appeared, that sense that something new, something unexpected, was happening in her life. 2 months after their first conversation, Michael sent a message that changed everything. I think I'm falling in love with you. Patricia stared at the screen, her heart beating slightly faster, because part of her had already felt it. She just hadn't said it. Not out loud, not even to herself. But now, the words were there. There, throughout. And once something is said, it becomes real. She hesitated, because saying it back would mean something. It would mean stepping into something deeper, something uncertain, but also something hopeful. And hope can be very powerful, especially after loss. So she replied, I think I feel the same way. And in that moment, the relationship changed. It was no longer just conversation. It was commitment, emotional commitment, even without meeting, even without hearing his voice. And that is where the real danger begins. Because once emotions are involved, decisions change. People trust more, question less, and believe more deeply. Over the next few weeks, Michael began talking about the future. Not in a rushed way, but slowly, carefully. He mentioned visiting her, coming back to the United States, starting a life together. Simple things: dinners, travel, living in her house, the house she had spent decades building her life in. At first, those ideas felt distant, almost like daydreams. But over time, they began to feel possible, real, and that is when imagination becomes belief. And belief is where everything changes. The shift didn't happen suddenly. There was no dramatic moment, no obvious warning, just a small change, a different tone, a different kind of message. One evening, Michael didn't send his usual good morning or his usual afternoon check-in. Hours passed. Patricia checked her phone again and again. Nothing. For the first time in weeks, the silence felt uncomfortable, heavy. Then, late that night, a message appeared. "Patricia, I'm sorry. Today has been very difficult." Her heart tightened. "What happened?" she asked immediately. There was a delay, longer than usual. Then the message came. "There's a problem with the project." The words were simple, but the tone felt different, more serious, more strained. Michael explained that something had gone wrong at the construction site. Equipment failure, unexpected costs, the kind of problem that sounds technical, but also believable, because real life is full of unexpected problems. Patricia read every message carefully. Michael sounded frustrated, not desperate, not dramatic, just stressed. And that made it more believable, because extreme panic can feel fake, but controlled stress feels real. Over the next few days, the topic came up again. Small mentions at first. Still dealing with that situation, trying to solve it. I hate problems like this. Then one night, the message changed. It became more direct. "Patricia, I don't like asking for help." That sentence matters, because it prepares the listener. It lowers resistance. It creates the feeling that what comes next is difficult, even for the person asking. Patricia felt it immediately. "What do you need?" she asked. There was a pause. Then the message appeared. "I'm short on funds to complete a payment." Short on funds. Then, simple words, but carefully chosen. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just enough to suggest a problem. Patricia's mind started working quickly. He was overseas, working, trying to solve a problem, alone, and now he was asking her for help. Michael continued, "It's temporary. I will repay you as soon as everything clears." Temporary. That word makes risk feel smaller, manageable, safe. Then came the number. $2,000. Patricia stared at the message. $2,000 wasn't a small amount, but it also wasn't impossible. She had savings, carefully built over years, and this was someone she cared about, someone she trusted. someone she believed she might build a future with. That combination is powerful. Emotion, just, oh, together, they can override logic. Patricia hesitated, just for a moment, because something deep inside her, very quietly, felt uncertain. But that feeling didn't last, because Michael sent another message. I understand if it's not possible. That sentence is important, because it removes pressure. And when pressure disappears, people often feel more willing to say yes. Patricia responded, I can help. And just like that, the first step was taken. The money was sent the next morning. Michael was grateful, very grateful. His messages became warmer, more affectionate. You have no idea how much this means to me. I don't know what I would do without you. Gratitude strengthens connection. It reinforces the decision. It makes the action feel right. And that's how the cycle begins. Because once someone helps once, helping again becomes easier. A few days passed. Everything seemed normal again. Conversations returned to their usual rhythm. Morning messages, evening talks, future plans. But something had changed. A line had been crossed. And once that line is crossed, it becomes easier to cross it again. 2 weeks later, another message arrived. Patricia, I hate to say this. And in that moment, the pattern repeated. The shift didn't happen suddenly. There was no dramatic moment, no obvious warning. Just a small change. A different tone. A different kind of message. One evening, Michael didn't send his usual good morning or his usual afternoon check-in. Hours passed. Patricia checked her phone again and again. Nothing. For the first time in weeks, the silence felt uncomfortable. Then, late that night, a message appeared. Patricia, I'm sorry. Today has been very difficult. Her heart tightened. What happened? She asked immediately. There was a delay, longer than usual. Then the message came. There's a problem with the project. The words were simple, but the tone felt different. More serious. More strained. Michael explained that something had gone wrong at the construction site. Equipment failure. Unexpected costs. The kind of problem that sounds technical, but also believable, because real life is full of unexpected problems. Patricia read every message carefully. Michael sounded frustrated, not desperate, not dramatic, just stressed, and that made it more believable, because extreme panic can feel fake, but controlled stress feels real. Over the next few days, the topic came up again. Small mentions at first. Still dealing with that situation. Trying to solve it. I hate problems like this. Then one night, the message changed. It became more direct. Patricia, I don't like asking for help. That sentence matters, because it prepares the listener. It lowers resistance. It creates the feeling that what comes next is difficult, even for the person asking. Patricia felt it immediately. What do you need? She asked. There was a pause. Then the message appeared. I'm short on funds to complete a payment. Short on funds. Then, simple words, but carefully chosen. Not dramatic. Not exaggerated. Just enough to suggest a problem. Patricia's mind started working quickly. He was overseas, working, trying to solve a problem. Alone. And now, he was asking her for help. Michael continued. It's temporary. I will repay you as soon as everything clears. Temporary. That word makes risk feel smaller. Manageable. Safe. Then came the number. $2,000. Patricia stared at the message. $2,000 wasn't a small amount, but it also wasn't impossible. She had savings, carefully built over years, and this was someone she cared about, someone she trusted, someone she believed she might build a future with. That combination is powerful. Emotion, just go together. They can override logic. Patricia hesitated, just for a moment, because something deep inside her, very quietly, felt uncertain. But that feeling didn't last, because Michael sent another message. I understand if it's not possible. That sentence is important, because it removes pressure. And when pressure disappears, people often feel more willing to say yes. Patricia responded, I can help. And just like that, the first step was taken. The money was sent the next morning. Michael was grateful, very grateful. His messages became warmer, more affectionate. You have no idea how much this means to me. I don't know what I would do without you. Gratitude strengthens connection. It reinforces the decision. It makes the action feel right. And that's how the cycle begins. Because once someone helps once, helping again becomes easier. A few days passed. Everything seemed normal again. Conversations returned to their usual rhythm. Morning messages, evening talks, future plans. But something had changed. A line had been crossed. And once that line is crossed, it becomes easier to cross it again. 2 weeks later, another message arrived. Patricia, I hate to say this. And in that moment, the pattern repeated. Patricia stared at the message. She hadn't opened it yet, but she already knew. She could feel it. Another request. Another problem. Another last time. Her heart was beating faster now. Not from excitement. From something else. Something closer to fear. She opened the message. Patricia, I didn't want to tell you this. That sentence is always the beginning. The beginning of something worse. The project is being held. Till another vague word. Another undefined problem. Michael explained that the situation had escalated. Legal complications. Contract disputes. Funds frozen. The explanation was longer than ever before. More complex. More confusing. And buried inside all those words was the part that mattered. If I can't resolve this immediately, everything collapses. Everything. Glasses. Those words carry weight. They create urgency. Finality. Patricia felt her chest tighten. Because now, it didn't sound like a temporary problem. It sounded like disaster. Then came the number. I need $25,000. Patricia froze. 25,000. The number didn't feel real. It felt distant. Too large. Too serious. She read it again. 25,000. That wasn't savings money. That wasn't spare money. That was everything. Almost everything. Her hands began to tremble slightly. For the first time, the situation didn't feel manageable. It felt overwhelming. She typed slowly. I don't have that kind of money. The response came quickly. I understand. Again, no pressure. No demand. Just understanding. And that makes it harder to say no. Then came the next message. There might be another way. Patricia felt her stomach turn. Because now, the situation was changing again. What do you mean? She asked. Michael answered carefully. Dear house. The word sat heavily on the screen. Dear house. Patricia didn't respond immediately. Because that wasn't just an asset. It was her home. Her stability. Her safety. Her life. Michael continued. If you sell it, we can fix everything. Fix everything. That phrase is powerful. Because it promises resolution. An end to the problem. An end to the stress. Patricia felt her mind racing. Sell the house. Leave the place she had lived for years. Give up the one thing that made her feel secure. It didn't make sense. It didn't feel right. But then, Michael sent another message. I will come back to you. We will build a new life together. You won't be alone anymore. And that is where everything changed. Because now, the decision wasn't just about money. It was about the future. A different future. A better one. A life that didn't include loneliness. A life that felt full again. And for someone who has lived with silence for years, that promise can be overwhelming. Patricia stood up slowly. She walked through her house. The living room. The kitchen. The hallway. Each space filled with memories. Her husband. Her daughter. Family dinners. Quiet nights. This house was her past. But Michael was offering something else. A future. And in that moment, Patricia made the most dangerous calculation of her life. She compared what she had with what she hoped to have. And hope. Well, within weeks, the house was listed. Buyers came quickly. The market was strong. The offer was accepted. Patricia packed her belongings. Each box, a piece of her life. And as she handed over the keys, she told herself something simple. This is temporary. We are starting something new. The money arrived in her account shortly after. And without hesitation, she sent it. $25,000. Everything. For a man she had never met. The transfer was completed. $25,000. Done. Patricia sat quietly at the small table in her temporary apartment, boxes still unpacked. The room didn't feel like home, but that was okay, because in her mind, this was only temporary. Michael would return soon. Everything would change. The life they had talked about would begin. And all of this would make sense. That is what she believed. That is what she needed to believe. The first day passed. No message. That was unusual, but not alarming. Michael had warned her about communication issues before. The second day passed. Still nothing. Patricia checked her phone constantly, refreshing the screen, reading old messages, trying to find reassurance in words that had once felt real. The third day, the silence became heavier, more noticeable, more uncomfortable. She sent a message. "Are you okay?" No response. An hour passed. Then two. Nothing. She sent another. "I'm starting to worry." Still nothing. That was the moment something shifted. Not completely. Not all at once. But enough. Enough for doubt to finally rise above hope. Patricia opened his profile. The same photos. The same name. Everything looked the same. But something felt different now. She clicked on one of his pictures. Then another. Then she did something she had never done before. She searched the image online, just out of curiosity, just to see, and within seconds, the truth appeared. The photo belonged to someone else, a completely different man, a real engineer, with a real identity, one that had been stolen. Patricia felt the air leave her chest. Her hands went cold. Because now, everything made sense. The messages, the delays, the excuses, the love. It had never been real. Michael Turner did not exist. Patricia tried calling. The number didn't connect. She sent another message. The account disappeared. Done. Just like that. 6 months of conversation. 6 months of trust. Done. $32,000. Done. Her house. Done. Patricia sat in silence. Not crying. Not moving. Just sitting. Because some realizations are too heavy to process immediately. They don't arrive as emotion. They arrive as emptiness. Days pass. Then weeks. Patricia began to tell her daughter what had happened. The conversation was difficult, painful, but necessary. Her daughter didn't yell, didn't blame her. She simply listened. Because situations like this are not about intelligence. They are about emotion, just loneliness, and hope. Patricia eventually reported the scam. The Wayne, the authorities, fraud departments, all of them took notes. All of them explained the same thing. Recovery was unlikely. These scams operate across countries, across networks. Money moves quickly and disappears even faster. But something else happened during that process. Patricia learned how it worked. Step by step. The fate profile. the emotional connection, the gradual trust, the small first request, then larger ones, then the final, irreversible decision. It was not random. It was designed carefully, because modern scams are not based on luck. They are based on psychology, understanding how people think, understanding how people feel, and most importantly, understanding what people want. Connection, though, a second chance. Today, Patricia lives in a smaller apartment. Her life is quieter now, simpler, more cautious, but also more aware, because she understands something she didn't understand before. The most dangerous financial decisions don't feel dangerous at the beginning. They feel right. They feel hopeful. They feel like something good is finally happening. And that is why they work. Patricia now shares her story whenever she can. With friends, with neighbors, with anyone willing to listen. Not because she wants sympathy, but because she wants others to understand something important. If someone you meet online begins to feel like the most important person in your life, if that person avoids needing you, if that person asks for money, for any reason, because real relationships do not require secrecy, they do not require urgency, and they do not require financial sacrifice to prove love. Patricia's story is not rare. It happens every day, quietly, to people who never imagined it could happen to them. And that is the final lesson. Scams don't target the careless. They target the hopeful. And sometimes, hope can be the most expensive thing we have.